Okay, well, that was fun. I was muted. But it's a good thing, because you didn't miss much. But it is Friday night, and time for fairy tales. Ugh. And the weather is getting colder. The nights are getting longer, and it will be time to bundle yourself up and get cozy. Maybe with some hot chocolate. I don't know. It depends on your taste entirely. I honestly wouldn't mind some hot chocolate right now, because it is below 50 degrees for me, Fahrenheit, which means it's probably in maybe the teens Celsius. I don't know. I don't know the metric system for temperature that well. But as I said, it is Friday night, and we will be doing more fairy tales. But first, I'm going to mention this wonderful book of fairy tales that you all might happen to see right above me. Yeah, it's mine. Kel should be advertising it through the night sometime. But it is, again, my first 3 streams worth of fairy tales that I ever did. I did read the Jack Zipes version, which Oniharo Joy has been reading on stream, but I've been using the Lang versions in my book. And it is Lang versions I'm going to be reading tonight. Because, well, they're public domain. But there's some of the older English translations of the Grimm's Brothers fairy tales, as well as other fairy tales in general. If you didn't see my preface one last week, he actually credits his wife and all the people who helped him translate to compile this book. But the Red Fairy book is only the second of the fairy book collection. And there's an Kid. Was an Kid. It seems to have escaped. Hopefully we won't have any power problems. Excuse me. Cold weather does make me sleepy. It also makes me want to eat more so I can get up and build a fat stores, but that's kind of a bear-like habit. But you know, all food gets a little bit scarce in the winter, so we gotta do what we can to get our food in. And I have yet to master the whole usage of my model. I really wish I could get it to work better. That's a me problem, most likely. Let's see. I have it set up for the microphone pickup. Turn down the volume cutoff. Turn up the gain. Turn up the frequency. Lip sync type. I want it to be advanced as possible. Hi. I want you to be able to see me talking. I am using this one. That is my microphone. And I am talking. Oh, shoot. This is so much more advanced than I'm used to. Why? Well, it's picking up my voice fine. It's just not moving my mouth. It's weird. Yes, reset the default values, please. Okay. Very little mouth movement. Huh. Oh well, I guess we'll have to go with what we have. So how do you set up in model? I don't know. Okay, well, I wonder what that'll do. Doesn't look like it did anything. Oh well. I guess we'll see what happens. And I could say things like, may or may not be getting another model soon, but I hate to get up anyone's hopes. Let's see. Do I want the emotes dropping on me? Maybe not from notifications. Okay, go ahead and I'll just turn everything on. It's fairy tales. It won't matter what drops on my head or not. Let me go ahead and just do regular lip sync. Simple lip sync, please. Thank you. And will it do anything? Okay, it says it's picking up my voice. That says it is. But oh well. Hey, Guilty. Nice of you to lurk. Welcome on in. Oh, sure. Kill actually did the shout out this time. Maybe I should change it. I don't know if I want to change it to the Twitch shout out or the keep it on the Stream Elements shout out. I don't know. But yeah, anyone who's here, go check out Guilty. He's a pretty cool werewolf who refuses to say what he is guilty of. But he's been playing a lot of Spider-Man lately. Spider-Wolf, Spider-Wolf. Well, he was playing Dead by Daylight. Ooh, were you being nice to people? He can be a very nice killer when he wants to be. Well, let's see. What time is it? It is... Kel is sending me messages. Anyway. I'm sure she's got the coffee shop locked up already, so... I will have to deal with her later. Let's see. Cut a couple of the other places I'm lurking off because I don't need to be lurking in so many places for the moment. Let me check one thing though. Check my timers. Okay, I do have the reading stream one up. Donations is on. September is over. Okay, I'm going to shorten the book one a little. Okay. Just because I do like to sell books. In fact, I'm sorely tempted to apply at Barnes & Noble since they're hiring seasonal help right now. Seasonal full-time, but, you know... At least... I should still be able to do my streaming on time if I do that. And thinking of streaming on time, I should probably skip us over to the library. Like so. Anyway, this is the book I am reading from. The Red Fairy book. If I had the copy that I have the picture from, it would be over, well, it'd be 98 years old. No, this one, the Red Fairy book, it would be 104 years old. It was written in 1919. Well, translated in 1919. But it was also English press, so. And, I can hear myself well enough. I hope everyone else can hear me. Oh, wait, I forgot to turn on a couple of things. Let me fix this real quickly. Okay, why does that say I'm disconnected? Connect you, dirty bit. Oh, there we go. Now it says I'm connected. And now I can do this. Aha. And I'm small. Okay. Now I hope I remember to fix my size when I come back. Make sure everything on this version is working because, you know, scritches are of dire importance. I do wonder, however, why I'm not centered. Oh, that's right. Your scritch in the right spot, but why am I not in the center? I need to move me in my chair, please. Thank you. Okay. I am so freaking cute when I'm small. But anyway, let's see. Desktop audio. Let me make sure my sounds are going. My sounds are not going because it's only a 2-hour sound set. I need to get a longer soundbite for the setup. Okay, now the sound is working. So, let me get everything else where it should be. As it should be. Oh, I am why is my mouth... Come on. I didn't change it on here. There we go. Okay. Okay, I hope it's all going out well on stream because my personal stream viewing is a little laggy, so. Okay. Oh, we are already running late. Of course, it probably doesn't help that I'm horsing around. Okay. Let me get myself situated. Oh, where's my bookmark? Need my good bookmark for this one. Okay. No one's there, it's just me. Okay, well. Kind of wish I could get my mic stand so I could, suspend the microphone instead of it just picking up every little thing I do to my desk. But anyway, here we go. The first story of tonight, with a wonderful title, just because it rhymes, and rhyming is a good thing for fairy tales. Soria Moria Castle. There once upon a time was a couple of folks who had a son called Halvor. Ever since he had been a little boy, he had been unwilling to do any work, and had just sat raking among the ashes. His parents sent him away to learn several things, but Halvor never stayed anywhere, for he had been gone 2 or 3 days, and he always ran from his master. Hurried off home, and sat down in the chimney corner to grub among the ashes again. One day, however, a sea captain came and asked Halvor if he hadn't a fancy to come with him and go to sea and behold foreign lands. And Halvor had a fancy for that, so he was not long in getting ready. How long they sailed, I really don't know. But after a long, long time, there was a terrible storm. And when it was over and all had become calm again, they knew not where they were, for they had been driven away to a strange coast of which none of them had any knowledge. There was no wind at all, and they lay becalmed, and Halvor asked the skipper to give him leave to go to shore to look about him, for he would much rather do that than, lie there and sleep. "Dost thou think thou art fit to go where people can see thee?" said the skipper. "Thou hast no clothes but those rags thou art going about in." A shrink. Halvor still begged to leave, and at last he got it, but he was to come back at once the wind began to rise. Well, boys being boys. So he went on shore, and it was a delightful country. Whithersoever he went, there were wide plains with fields and meadows. But as for people, there were none to be seen. The wind began to rise, but Halvor thought that he had not seen yet enough, and that he would like to walk a little while longer, to try if he could not meet anybody. So after a while he came to a great highway, which was so smooth that an egg might have rolled along it without breaking. Halvor followed this, and when evening drew near, he saw a big castle far away in the distance, and there were lights in it. So, as he had now been walking for a whole day and had not brought anything to eat away with him, he was frightfully hungry. Nevertheless, the nearer he came to the castle, the more afraid he was. A fire was burning in the castle, and Halvor went into the kitchen, which was more magnificent than any kitchen he had ever yet beheld. He had seen many, but still, there were vessels of gold and silver, but not one human being was to be seen. There were such emptiness. When Halvor had stood there for some time, and no one had come out, he went in and opened a door, and inside a princess was sitting at her spinning wheel. "Nay," she cried, "can Christian folk dare come to hither? But the best thing that you can do is to go away again, for if not, the troll will devour you. A troll with 3 heads lives here." Three-headed troll. "I should have just as well be pleased if he had 4 heads more, for I should have enjoyed seeing the fellow," said the youth. "And I won't go away, for I have done no harm. But you must give me something to eat, for I am frightfully hungry." When Halvor had eaten his fill, the princess told him to try if he could wield the sword which was hanging on the wall. But he could not wield it, nor could he even lift it up. "Well then, you must take a drink of that bottle which is hanging by its side, for that's what the troll does whenever he goes out and wants to use the sword," said the princess. Halvor took a draught, and in a moment he was able to swing the sword about with perfect ease. And now he thought it was high time for the troll to make his appearance. And at the very moment he came, panting for breath. Halvor got behind the door. "Hoo-hoo-poo!" said the troll as he put his head in the door.
It smells as if there was a human man's blood in here.
Yes, and you shall learn there is, said Halvor, and cut off all his heads. The princess was so rejoiced to be free that she danced and sang, but then she remembered her sisters, and said, "If my sisters were but to be freed too." "Where are they?" asked Halvor. Oh, she told him where they were. One of them had been taken away by a troll to his castle, which was 6 miles off, and the other had been carried off to a castle which was 9 miles further still. "But now," she said, "you must first help me to get this dead body away from here." Halvor was so strong that he cleared everything away and made all clean and tidy very quickly. So they ate and drank and were happy, and next morning he set off at the grey light of dawn. He gave himself no rest, but walked or ran the livelong day. When he came in sight of the castle, he was just a little afraid. It was much more splendid than the other, but here, too, there was not a human being to be seen. So Halvor went into the kitchen, and did not linger there either, but went straight in. "Nay, do Christian folk not dare come here?" cried the second princess. "I know not how long it is since elves came. During all that time I have never seen a Christian man. It will be better for you to depart at once, for a troll lives here with 6 heads." "No, I shall not go," said Halvor. "Even if he had 6 more, I would not." "He will swallow you up alive," said the princess. But she spoke to no purpose, for Halvor would not go. He was not afraid of the troll. He just wanted some meat and drink, for he was hungry after his journey. So she gave him as much as he would have, and then she once more tried to make him go away. "No," said Halvor, "I will not go, for I have not done anything wrong yet, and I have no reason to be afraid." "You won't ask any about that," said the princess, "for he will take you without leave or right. But as you will not go, try if you can wield that sword which the troll uses in battle." But he could not brandish that sword. So the princess said they had to take a draught from the flask which hung by its side. And when he had done that, he could wield the sword. Soon afterwards the troll came, and he was so large and stout that he was forced to go sideways to get to the door. Dude. When the troll got his first head in, he cried, "It smells of a human man's blood in here." With that, Halvor cut off the first head, and so on with the other 5. The princess was now exceedingly delighted, but then she remembered her sisters and wished that they too were free. Halvor thought that might be managed and wanted to set off immediately. But first he had to help the princess remove the troll's body, so that it was not until morning that he set forth on his way. It was a long, long way to the next castle, and he walked both and he ran to get there in time. Late in the evening he caught sight of it, and it was very much more magnificent than either of the others. And this time he was not in the least afraid, but went into the kitchen, and then straight on into inside the castle. The princess was sitting, who was so beautiful that there was never anyone to equal her. She, too, said what the others had said, that no Christian folk had ever been seen since she had come, and entreating him to go away, or else the troll would swallow him up, yada, yada, yada. The troll had 9 heads, she told him. Yes, and if he had 9 added to the 9, and then 9 more still, I would not go away, said Halvor, and he went and stood by the stove. The princess begged him very prettily to go, lest the troll should devour him. But Halvor said, "Let him come when he will." She gave him the troll sword and bade him to drink from the flask to enable him to wield it again. At the same time the troll came, breathing hard, and he was ever so much bigger and stouter than the other two that he too was forced to go sideways to get them through the door.
"Oh, I smell a Christian man is there,"
he said. Then Halvor cut off his first head, and after that the others. But the last was the toughest of them all, and it was the hardest work that Halvor had ever done to get it off. But he still believed that he would have the strength enough to do it. And now all the princesses came to the castle and were together again, and they were happier than ever they had ever been in their lives. And they were delighted with Halvor, and he with them, and he chose the one he liked best. But of the 3 sisters, the youngest loved him best. But Halvor went about, and was so strange and so mournful and quiet, that the princesses asked what it was that he longed for, and if he did not like to be with them. He said that he did like to be with them, for they had enough to live on, and he was comfortable there. But he longed to go home, for his father and mother were still alive, that he knew, and he had a great desire to see them again. They thought that this might easily be done. "You shall go and return to perfect safety if you will follow our advice," said the princesses. So he said that he would do nothing that they did not wish. Then they dressed him so splendidly that he was like a king's son. They put a ring on his finger, and it was one which would enable him to go there and back again, simply by wishing. But they told him he must not throw it away, or name their names. For if he did, all this magnificence would be at an end, and then he would never see them again. "If I were but home again, or if home were but here," said Halvor. And no sooner had he wished this than it was granted. Halvor was standing outside his father and mother's cottage before he knew what he was about. The darkness of night was coming on, and when his father and mother saw such a splendid and stately stranger walk in, they were so startled that they both began to bow and to curtsy. Halvor then inquired if he could stay there and have lodging for the night. No, that he certainly could not. "We can give you no such accommodation," they said, "for we have none of the things that are needful when a great lord like you is to be entertained. It would be better for you to go up to the farm. It is not far off. You can see the chimney pots from here, and they will have plenty of everything." Halvor would not hear of that. He was absolutely determined to stay where he was. But the old folks stuck to what they had to say, and told him that he was to go from the farm, where he could both get meat and drink, whereas they themselves had not even a chair to offer him. "No," said Halvor, "I will not go up there till early tomorrow morning. Let me stay here tonight. I can sit down on the hearth. They could say nothing against that, so Halvor sat down on the hearth and began to rake about among the ashes, just as he had done before, when he lay there idling away his time. They chattered much about many things, and Halvor of this and of that, and at last he asked them if they never had any child. Yes, they said. They had a boy who was named Halvor, but they did not know where he had gone, and they could not even say whether he was alive or dead. Could I be he? Said Halvor. I should know him well enough, said the old woman, rising. Our Halvor was so idle and slothful that he never did anything at all, and he was so ragged that one hole ran into another all over his clothes. Such a fellow as he was could never turn into such a man as you. In a short time, the old woman had to go to the fireplace and stir the fire. And when the blaze lit up, Halvor, as it used to do when he was at home raking in the ashes, she recognized him again. Good heavens! Is that you, Halvor? She said, and with such great gladness fell on the old parents that there were no bounds to it. And now he had to relate everything that had befallen him. And the old woman was so delighted with him that she would take him up to the farm and show him at once to the girls who had formerly looked down upon him. So she went there first, and Halvor followed her. When she got there, she told them about how Halvor had come home again, and how they should just see how magnificent he is. He looks like a prince, she said. Well, we shall see that he is the same old ragamuffin that he was before, said the girls, tossing their heads about. At the same time, Halvor entered, and the girls were so astonished that they left their kirtles lying in the chimney corner, and ran away in nothing but their petticoats. When they came in again, they were so shamefaced that they hardly dared to look at Halvor, towards whom they had always been so proud and haughty. Aye, you have always thought that you were so pretty and dainty that no one was equal to you, said Halvor. But you should see the eldest princess whom I set free. You look like herdswomen compared to her. And the second princess is also much prettier than you. But the youngest, who is my sweetheart, is more beautiful than either the sun or moon. I wish to heaven they were here, then you could see them. Scarcely had he said this before they were standing by his side. And then he was very sorrowful, for the words which they had said to him came to his mind. Up at the great farm, a great feast was made ready for the princesses, and much respect was paid for them, but they would not stay there. We want to go down to your parents, they said to Halvor, so we will go out and look about us. He followed them out, and they came to a large pond outside the farmhouse. Very near the water there was a pretty green bank, and there the princesses said that they should sit down and while away for an hour, for they thought that it would be pleasant to sit and look out over the water, they said. There they sat down, and when they sat for a short time, the youngest princess said, I may as well comb your hair, little Halvor. So Halvor laid his head down on her lap, and she combed it. And it was not long before he fell asleep. I know that feeling. Then she took a ring from him and put another in its place. And then she said to her sisters, Hold me as I am holding you. I would that we were at Moria Castle. When Halvor awoke, he knew that he had lost the princesses, and began to weep and lament, and was so unhappy that he could not be comforted. In spite of all his father's and mother's entreaties, he would not stay, but bade them farewell, saying that he would never see them more, for if he did not find the princesses again, he did not think it worth while to live. He again had $300, which he put into his pocket and went on his way. When he had walked some distance, he met a man with a tolerably good horse. Halvor longed to buy it, and began to bargain with the man.
"Oh, I have not exactly been thinking of selling him," said the man. "But if we could agree, perhaps."
Halvor inquired how much he wanted to have for his horse.
"I did not give much for him, but he is not worth much. He is a capital horse to ride, but good for nothing at drawing. But he will always be able to carry your bag of provisions for you, if you walk and ride by turns."
At last they agreed on a price, and Halvor laid his bag on the horse. And sometimes he walked, and sometimes he rode. In the evening he came to a green field where a great tree stood, under which he seated himself. Then he let the horse loose and lay down to sleep. But before he did, he took a long bag off the horse. At daybreak he set off again, for he did not feel he could take any rest. So he walked and rode the whole day, through a great wood where there were many green places which gleamed very prettily among the trees. He did not know where he was, or whither he was going, but he never lingered longer than any place than was enough to let his horse get a little food, and came to one of the green spots, while he himself took out his bag of provisions. So he walked, and he rode, and he walked, and he rode, and it seemed to him that the wood would never come to an end. But on the evening of the second day he saw a light shining through the trees. "If only there were some people up there, I might warm myself and get myself something to eat," thought Halvor. When he got to the place where the light had come from, he saw a wretched little cottage, and through a small pane of glass he saw a couple of old folks inside. They were very old, and gray-headed as a pigeon, and the old woman had such a long nose that she sat in the chimney corner and used it to stir the fire.
Good evening, said the old hag. "But what errand have you that can bring you here? No Christian folk have been here for more than 100 years.
So Halvor told her that he wanted to get to Soria Moria Castle, and inquired if she knew the way there.
"No," said the old woman, "I do not know that, but the moon will be here presently, and I will ask her. She will know. She can easily see it, for she shines on all things."
So, when the moon stood clear and bright above the treetops, the old woman went out.
"Moon! Hey, moon!" she screamed. "Canst thou tell me the way to Soria Moria Castle?"
"No," said the moon, "I can't, for when I shone there was a cloud before me."
"Wait a little longer," said the old woman to Halvor, "for the west wind will presently be here, and he will know it, for he breathes gently or blows into every corner." "What? You have a horse too?" she said when she came in again. "Oh, let the poor creature loose in our bit of the fenced-in pasture, and don't let her stand there starving at our very door." But won't you exchange him with me? We have an old pair of boots here which you can go 15 miles in a quarter of every step. You shall have them for the horse, and then you will be able to get soon at the Soria Moria castle. Halvor consented to this at once, and the old woman was so delighted with the horse that she was ready to dance. For now I too will be able to ride to church, she said. Halvor could take no rest and wanted to be off immediately, but the old woman said that there was no need to hasten. Lie down on the little bench and sleep for a little while, for we have no bed to offer you, she said. I will watch for the coming of the west wind. Ere long came the west wind, roaring so loud that the walls creaked. The old woman went outside and cried, West wind! West wind! Canst thou tell me the way to Soria Moria castle? There is one who would go there. Yes, I know it well, said the wind. I am just on my way there to dry the clothes for the wedding, which is to take place. If he is fleet of foot, he can go with me. Out ran Halvor. You have to make haste if you mean to go with me, said the west wind. And away it went, over hill and dale, over moor and morass, and Halvor had enough to do to keep up with it. Well, now I have no time to stay longer, said the west wind, for I must go and tear down a bit of spruce fir before I go to the bleaching ground to dry the clothes. But just go along the side of the hill, and you will come to some girls who are standing there washing clothes, and then you will not have far to walk before you are at Soria Moria castle. Shortly afterwards, Halvor came to the girls who were standing washing, and they asked him if he had seen anything of the west wind, who was to come there to dry the clothes for the wedding. Yes, he said, he has only gone to break down a bit of spruce fir. It won't be long before he's here. And then he asked them the way to Soria Moria Castle. They put him in the right way, and when he came in front of the castle, it was so full of horses and people that it swarmed with them. But Halvor was so ragged and torn from following the west wind through the bushes and bogs that he kept on one side and would not go among the crowd until the last day, when the feast was to be held at noon. So when, as was the last usage and custom, all were to drink to the bride and the young girls were to present, the cupbearer filled the cups of each in turn, both bride and bridegroom, knights and servants, and at last, after a very, very long time, came to Halvor. He drank to their health, and then he slipped the ring which the princess had put on his finger where they were sitting by the waterside into the glass, and ordered the cupbearer to carry the glass to the bride from him, and greet her. Then the princess at once rose from the table and said, Who is the most worthy to have one sit as us? He who has delivered us from the trolls, or he who is sitting here as bridegroom?
There could be but one opinion of that. Well, so everyone thought. And when Halvor heard what they said, he was not long in flinging off his beggar's rags and arraying himself as a bridegroom.
Yes, he is the right one,
cried the youngest princess when they caught sight of him. So she flung the other out the window and held her wedding with Halvor. If I had hand tracking, you would see how badly I'm doing this. It's like I'm doing the fangirling when it's like, yes, he's the right one. Hands flailing in the air. A wild Bennett. What are the Bennets? Poke a catch. Ultra Bolo. And that's what. Yeah. Okay. Now maybe I'll catch it. Let's see, that story had... Oh, man, how many voices did I have to do for that one? And a drink. Drink it if you got it. Drink, total stretch. Get down tonight. Okay. What is wrong with my camera? I don't want to go that way. I want to go this way. Nope. Come on, get in the chair. Just so everyone knows, I do my own scene arrangement. Yeah, I cut the Bennett. Oh, the Bennett is the possessed doll. Yeah. The doll that has so much angst for being thrown in the trash. See, I do remember some Pokemon. I've never played any of the Pokemon video games except for Plutonium, which wasn't an official game. There's my confession for today. Well, I guess if you count Pokemon Go, I played that. Anyway. Ooh. This one is about an evil wizard. Yeah. Actually, yeah, John Soule did cover this one. Yeah, he did. Anyway, somewhat ironic title. The Death of Koshchei, the Deathless. In a certain kingdom there lived a Prince Ivan. He had 3 sisters. The first was Princess Moria, the second was Princess Olga, and the third was Princess Anna. When their father and mother lay at the point of death, they had thus enjoyed their son. Give your sisters in marriage to the first suitors who come to woo them, but don't go keep them by you. They died, and the prince buried them. And then, to solace his grief, he went with his sisters into the garden green to stroll.
Suddenly, the sky was covered by a black cloud, and a terrible storm arose. "Let us go home, sisters," he cried. Hardly had they got into the palace when the thunder pealed. The ceiling split open, and into the room came a flying falcon bright. The falcon smote upon the ground, became a brave youth, and said, "Hail, Princess Ivan! Before I came as a guest, but now I have come as a wooer. I wish to propose to your sister, the Princess Moria." "If you find favor in the eyes of my sister, I will not interfere with her wishes. Let her marry you in God's name." The Princess Moria gave her consent, and the falcon married her, and bore her away into his own realm. Days follow days, and hours chase hours. A whole year goes by. One day Prince Ivan and his two sisters went out for a stroll in the garden green. There again arose a storm cloud, with a whirlwind and lightning. "Let us go home, sisters," cries the prince. Scarcely had they entered the palace, when the thunder crashed, and the roof burst into a blaze, and the ceiling split in twain, and in flew an eagle. The eagle smote upon the ground and became a brave youth. "Hail, Prince Ivan! Before I came as a guest, but now I come as a wooer." And he asked for the hand of Princess Olga, and Prince Ivan replied, "If you find favor in the eyes of Princess Olga, then let her marry you. I will not interfere with her liberty of choice." The Princess Olga gave her consent and married the eagle. The eagle took her off and carried her to his own kingdom. Another year went by, and Prince Ivan said to his youngest sister, "Let us go out and stroll in the garden green." They strolled out and were about for a time, and again there rose a storm cloud, and a whirlwind and lightning. "Let us return home safe, sister," he said. They returned home, but they hadn't had time to sit down when the thunder crashed and the ceiling split open, and in flew a raven. The raven smote upon the floor and became a brave youth. The former youths had been handsome, but this one was handsomer still. "Well, Prince Ivan, before I came as a guest, but now I have come as a wooer. Give me the Princess Anna to wife." "I won't interfere with my sister's freedom. If you gain her affections, I let her marry you." So the Princess Anna married the raven, and he bore her away into his own realm, and Prince Ivan was left alone. A whole year he lived without his sisters, when then he grew weary and said, "I will set out in search of my sisters." He got ready for the journey, and he rode and rode. One day he saw a whole army lying dead on the plain. He cried aloud, "If there be a living man there, let him make answer. Who has slain this mighty host?" There replied unto him a living man, "Oh, this mighty host has been slain by the fair Princess Moria Morevna." Prince Ivan rode further on and came to a white tent, and forth came him to meet the fair Princess Moria Morova. "Hail, Prince," says she. "Whither does God send you, and is it your free will or against your will?" Prince Ivan replied, "Nor against their will do these brave youths ride." "Well, if your business be not pressing, tarry a while in my tent." Thereat the Prince Ivan was glad. He spent 2 nights in the tent, and he found favor in the eyes of Maria Marevna, and she married him. And the fair Princess Maria Marova carried him off to her own realm. They spent some time together, and then the princess took it into her head to go a-warring. She had handed over the housekeeping affairs to Prince Ivan, and gave him these instructions. Go about everywhere, keep watch over everything, only do not venture to look into that closet over there. He couldn't help but do so. The moment Maria Morova had gone, he rushed to the closet, pulled open the door, and looked in. There hung Koshchei the Deathless, fettered by 12 chains. Then Koshchei entreated Prince Ivan, saying,
Have pity on me! Give me something to drink! 10 years long have I been here in torment, neither eating nor drinking. My throat is utterly dried up.
The prince gave him a bucket full of water, and he drank it up and asked for more, saying, Give me a single bucket of water will not quench my thirst. Give me more. The prince gave him a second bucketful, and Koshchei drank it up and asked for a third. And when he had swallowed the third bucketful, he regained his former strength and gave his chains a shake and broke all 12 at once. Thanks, Prince Ivan, cried Koshchei the Deathless. Now you will soon see your own ears in Maria Morova. And out of the window he flew in the shape of a terrible whirlwind. And he came up to the fair Princess Maria Morovna, and she was going her way, laid hold of her and carried her off home with him. But Prince Ivan wept full sore, and he arrayed himself and set out a-wandering, saying to himself, Whatever happens, I will go and look for Maria Morovna. One day passed. Another day passed. At the dawn of the third day, he saw a wondrous palace, and by the side of the palace stood an oak. And on the oak sat a falcon bright. Down flew the falcon from the oak, and smoke upon the ground, turning into the brave youth, and cried aloud, Ah! Dear brother-in-law, how deals the Lord with you? Out came running the Princess Maria, joyfully greeting her brother Ivan, and began inquiring about his health, and telling him all about herself. The prince spent 3 days with him, and then he said, I cannot abide with you. I go in search of my wife, the fair Princess Maria Morovna. It will be hard for you to find her, answered the falcon. At all events, have you with a silver spoon. Will you look at it and remember you? So Prince Ivan left his silver spoon at the falcon's, and went along his way. On he went one day, on he went a second day, and again on the third day he saw a palace still grander than the former one, and hard by the palace stood an oak, and on the oak sat an eagle. Down flew the eagle from the oak, and smote upon the ground, turned into the brave youth, who cried out aloud, Rise up, Princess Olga! Hither comes our dear brother! The Princess Olga immediately ran to meet him, and began kissing him and embracing him, asking after his health, and telling him all about herself. With them Prince Ivan stopped 3 days, and he said, I cannot stay here any longer. I am going to look for my wife, the fair Princess Maria Morevna. Hard will it be for you to find her, replied the eagle. Leave with us a silver fork. We will look at it and remember you. So, as he left the silver fork behind, and he went on his way. He traveled 1 day, then traveled 2 days. And at daybreak on the third, he saw a palace grander than the first two. And near the palace stood an oak. And on the oak sat a raven. Down flew the raven from the oak, smote upon the ground, and turned into the brave youth, and cried aloud, "Princess Anna! Come forth quickly! Our brother is coming!" Out ran the Princess Anna and greeted him joyfully and began kissing and embracing him, asking his health and telling him all about herself again. Prince Ivan stayed with them 3 days as well. And after 3 days, "Farewell, I'm going to look for my wife, the fair Princess Moria. "What will it be to find her?" replied the raven. "Anyhow, leave your silver snuff box with us. We'll look at it and remember you." Snuff box. The prince handed over his silver snuff box and took his leave, and he went on his way. 1 day he went. 2 days he went. On the 3rd day he came to where Maria Morevna was. He caught sight of her. As she caught sight of her love, she flung her arms around his neck and burst into tears and exclaimed, "Oh, Prince Ivan! Why did you disobey me and go looking into the closet and letting out Koshchei the Deathless?" "Forgive me, Maria Morevna. Remember not the past. Much better fly with me while Koshchei the Deathless is out of sight. Perhaps he won't catch us." So they got ready and fled. Now Koshchei was out hunting. Towards evening he was returning home, and when his good steed stumbled beneath him. "Why stumbled thou, sorry jade? Scentest thou some ill?" Steer replied, "Prince Ivan has come and carried off Maria Morevna." "Is it possible to catch them?" "It is possible to sow wheat, to wait till it grows up, to reap it and to thresh it, to grind it to flour, to make 5 pies out of it and eat those pies, and then to start in pursuit. Even then to be in time." The horse wanted pie. So Koshchei galloped off and caught up with Prince Ivan. "Now," says he, "this is the time I will forgive you. In return for your kindness in giving me water to drink, and the 2nd time I will forgive you, but the 3rd time beware. I will cut you to bits." Then he took Maria Morevna from him and carried her off. But Prince Ivan sat down on a stone and burst into tears. He wept, and then returned back to Maria Morevna. Now Koshchei the Deathless happened to not be home. "Let us fly, Maria Morevna." "But Prince Ivan, he will catch us." "Suppose he does not catch us. At all events, we shall have spent an hour or 2 together." So they got ready and fled. As Koshchei the Deathless was returning home, his good steed stumbled beneath him. "Why stumblest thou, sorry jade? Scentest thou some ill?" "Princess Ivan has come and carried her off, Maria Morevna." "Is it possible to catch them?" "It is possible to sow barley, wait till it comes up, and reap it, and thresh it, and brew beer, and drink ourselves drunk on it, to fill our sleep, and then still set off in pursuit, and yet to be in time." Koshchei galloped off and caught up to Prince Ivan. "Didn't I tell you that you should not see Maria Morevna any more than your own ears?" and he took her away and carried her off home with him. Prince Ivan was left there alone. He wept, and wept, and went back again to Maria Morevna. Koshchei happened to be away from home at that moment as well.
Let us fly, Maria Morevna. Prince Ivan, he is sure to catch us and hew you into pieces.
Let him hew away. I cannot live without you. So they got ready and fled. Koshchei the Deathless was returning home when his good seed stumbled beneath him. Why stumblest thou now? Scentest thou any ill?
Prince Ivan has come and carried off Maria Morevna.
Koshchei galloped off, caught Prince Ivan and chopped him into little pieces, put him into a barrel, smeared it with pitch and bound it with iron hoops, then flung it into the sea. But Maria Morevna he carried off home. At that very time, the silver articles turned black, which Princess Ivan had left with his brothers-in-law. Hey, he said, the evil was accomplished, sure enough. Then the eagle hurried to the blue sea and caught hold of the barrel and dragged it ashore. The falcon flew away for the water of life, and the raven for the water of death. Afterwards, they all three met and broke up in the barrel and took out the remains of Prince Ivan, washed them, and put them back together in the fitting order. Luckily. The raven then sprinkled them with the water of death, and the pieces joined together and the body became whole. The falcon sprinkled it with the water of life. Prince Ivan shuddered and stood up and said, "What a time I've been sleeping!" "You'd have gone on sleeping a great deal longer if it hadn't been for us," replied his brothers-in-law. "Now, come and pay us a visit." "Not so, brothers. I shall go and look for Maria Morevna." And when he found her, he said to her, "Find out from Koshchei the Deathless whence he got so good a steed." So Maria Morevna chose a favorable moment and began asking Koshchei about it. Koshchei replied, "Beyond thrice 9 lands in the 13th kingdom on the other side of the fiery river, there lives a Baba Yaga. She has so good a mare that she flies right around the world on it every day. And she has many other splendid mares. I watched her herd for 3 days without losing a single mare, and in return for that the Baba Yaga gave me a foal."
"But how did you get across the fiery river?"
"Why, I have a handkerchief of this kind. When I wave it thrice to the right hand, there springs up a very lofty bridge, and the fire cannot reach it." Maria Morevna listened to all this and repeated it to Prince Ivan, and she carried off the handkerchief and gave it to him. So he managed to get across the fiery river and then went on to the Baba Yaga's. Long went he on without getting anything either to eat or drink. At last he came across the outlandish bird and his young ones. Says Prince Ivan, "I'll eat one of those chickens."
"Don't eat it, Princess Ivan,"
begs the outlandish bird.
"Some other time or other I'll do you a good turn."
He went on further and saw a hive of bees in the forest. "I'll get a bit of the honeycomb," he says.
You don't deserve my honey, Prince Ivan,
exclaims the Queen Bee.
some other time or other I'll do you a good turn.
So he didn't disturb it, and he went on. Presently there he met a lioness with her cub. Anyhow, I'll eat this lion cub, he says. I'm so hungry I feel quite unwell. Please let us alone, Prince Ivan, begs the lioness. Some time or another I'll do you a good turn. Very well. Have it your own way, says he. Hungry and faint, he wandered on, walked farther and farther, and at last he came to where stood the house of the Baba Yaga. Round the house were set 12 poles in a circle, and on each of 11 of these poles was stuck a human head. The 12th alone remained unoccupied.
Oh, Granny!
Oh, Prince Ivan, wherefore have you come? Is it on your own accord or on compulsion?
I've come to earn from you a heroic steed.
So be it, Prince. You won't have to serve a year with me, but just 3 days. If you take good care of my mares, I'll give you a heroic steed. But if you don't, why, you mustn't be annoyed at finding your head stuck on top of the last pole up there.
Prince Ivan agreed to these terms. The Baba Yaga gave him food and drink and bade him set about his business. But the moment he had driven the mares afield, they cocked up their tails and tore away across the meadows in all directions. Thereupon he began to weep and to disquiet himself, and then he sat down upon a stone and went to sleep. But when the sun was near its setting, the outlandish bird came flying up to him and awakened him, saying,
"Arrive, Prince Ivan! The mares are at home now!"
The prince arose and returned home. There the Baba Yaga was storming and raging at her mares and shrieking,
"Whatever did you come home for?"
How could we not help coming home, they said. There came flying birds from every part of the world and all but pecked our eyes out.
Well, tomorrow don't go galloping over the meadow, but disperse among the thick forests.
Prince Ivan slept all night. In the morning, the Baba Yaga says to him,
Mind, Prince, if you don't take good care of the mares, if you lose merely one of them, your bold head will be stuck on that pole.
He drove the mares afield. Immediately they cocked up their tails and dispersed among the thick forests. Again did the prince sit down on the stone and weep, and then go to sleep. The sun went down behind the forest, and up came running the lioness. Prince Ivan, the mares are collected. Prince Ivan arose and went home. More than ever did Baba Yaga storm and rage at her mares and shriek,
Whatever did you come home for?
We could not help coming back. Beasts of prey came running at us from all parts of the world, and all but tore us utterly to pieces.
Well, tomorrow run off to the Blue Sea.
Again, Prince Ivan slept through the night. He gets more sleep than I do. Next morning, the Baba Yaga sent him forth to watch her mares.
If you don't take good care of them, says she, your bald head will be stuck on that pole.
He drove the mares afield. Immediately they cocked up their tails and disappeared from sight and fled into the blue sea. There they stood, up to their necks in water. Prince Ivan came down and sat on the stone and wept and fell asleep again. But when the sun had set behind the forest, up came flying a bee.
Rise, Prince. The mares are collected. But when you go home, don't let Baba Yaga set eyes on you, but go into the stable and hide behind the mangers. There you will find a sorry coat rolling in the muck. Do you steal it, and at the dead of night ride away from the house.
Prince Ivan arose and slipped into the stables and lay down behind the mangers, while the Baba Yaga was storming away at her mares and shrieking,
Why did you come back?
How could we not help coming back? There came flying bees in countless numbers from all parts of the world and began stinging us on all sides until the blood came.
The Baba Yaga went into sleep. In the dead of the night, the Prince Ivan stole the sorry colt, saddled it, jumped on its back, and galloped away to the fiery river. When he came to the river, he waved the handkerchief 3 times on the right hand, and suddenly, springing goodness knows whence, there hung across the river a high, splendid bridge. When the Baba Yaga got up in the morning, the sorry colt was not to be seen. Off she set in pursuit. At full speed did she fly in her iron mortar, urging it on with the pestle, sweeping away her traces with the broom. That's how Baba Yagas travel, by the way. She dashed up to the fire river and gave a glance and said,
A capital bridge!
She drove on the bridge, but had only got halfway when the bridge broke in 2. The Baba Yaga went flop into the river. Truly there did she meet with a cruel death. There's always another. Prince Ivan fattened up the colt on the green meadows, and it turned into a wondrous steed. Then he rode where Marya Morovna was. She came running out and flung herself on his neck, crying,
By what means has God brought you back to life?
Thus and thus, he says. Now come along with me.
I am afraid, Prince Ivan. If Koshchei catches you, you will be cut into pieces again.
No, he won't catch us. I have a splendid steed now. It flies just like a bird. So they got on its back and rode away. Koshchei the Deathless was returning home when his horse stumbled beneath him. Why art thou stumbling for, sorry jade? Dost thou scent any ill?
Prince Ivan has married off Marya Morovna.
Can we catch them?
God knows. Prince Ivan is on a horse now which is better than I.
Well, I can't stand it, says Koshchei the Deathless. I will pursue. After a time, he came up with Prince Ivan, lighted on the ground, and was going to chop him up with his sharp sword. But at that moment, Prince Ivan's horse smote Koshchei the Deathless a full swing with its hoof, and cracked his skull. And the prince made an end of him with a club. Afterwards, the prince heaped up a pile of wood, set it to fire, and burnt Koshchei the Deathless on the pyre, and scattered his ashes to the wind. Then Marya Morovna mounted Koshchei's horse, and Prince Ivan got on his own, and they rode away to visit first the raven, then the eagle, and then the falcon. Wherever they went, they met with a joyful greeting.
Prince Ivan, why, we never expected to see you again. Well, it wasn't for nothing that we gave you so much trouble. Such a beauty as Princess Moria Marevna, one might search all the world over, and never find one like her.
And so they visited, and they feasted, and afterwards they went off to their own realm. Yay! Thank you for coming, Loki, and congrats on getting a second. And happy early birthday, I believe. What is it, tomorrow, or is it today? I just seen the post saying that it was 4 days away, and I don't remember how long ago it was. But it was before Halloween, so I think it was this weekend. But anyway, happy birthday. Let's see. Said I'd do at least 2 stories tonight. Should I go for a third? What is the next story? The next story is Black Thief of the Night of the Glen. How long is this one? It is 13 pages. Wouldn't be too bad. Yeah, I'll do it. Try to do at least 2 hours of reading if I can. So this will probably put me there. So our next and possibly final story for the night: The Black Thief and Knight of the Glen. In times of yore, there was a king and queen in the south of Ireland who had 3 sons, all beautiful children, but the queen, their mother, sickened unto death when they were yet very young, and caused great grief throughout the court, particularly to the king, her husband, who could in no wise be comforted. Seeing the death was drawing near her, she called the king to her, and spoke as follows.
I am now going to leave you, and as you are young and in your prime, of course after my death you will marry again. Now all I request, I ask of you, is that you should build a tower on an island in the sea, wherein you will heap your 3 sons until they come of age and fit to do it for themselves, so that they may not be under the power or jurisdiction of any other woman. Neglect not to give them an education suitable to their birth, and let them be trained up in every exercise and pastime requisites for king's sons to learn. This is all I have to say, my love, and so farewell.
The king had scarce time, with tears in his eyes, to assure her that she should be obeyed in everything, when she, turning herself in bed, with a smile, gave up the ghost. Never was greater mourning seen than was throughout the court and the whole kingdom, for a better woman than the queen, to rich and poor, was not to be found in the world. She was interred in a great pomp and great magnificence, and the king, her husband, became in a manner inconsolable for the loss of her. However, he caused the tower to be built, and his sons placed in it, under proper guardians, according to his promise. In process of time, the lords and knights of the kingdom counseled the king, as he was young, to live no longer as he had done, but to take a wife. Which counsel prevailing, they chose him a rich and beautiful princess to be his consort, a neighboring king's daughter, of whom he was very fond. Not long after, the queen had a fine son, which caused great feasting and rejoicing in the court, insomuch that the late queen, in a manner, was completely forgotten. That fared well, and the king and queen lived happily together for several years. At length the queen, having some business with the henwife, went herself to her, and after a long conference passed, was taking leave of her, when the henwife prayed that if she ever should come back to see her again, she might break her neck. The queen, greatly incensed at such a daring insult from one of her meanest subjects, demanded immediately the reason, or she would have her put to death.
"It was worth your while, madam," says the henwife, "to pay me well for it, for the reason I prayed so on you concerns you much."
"What must I pay you?" asks the queen.
"You must give me," she says, "a full peck of wool, and have an ancient crock with which you must fill with butter, likewise a barrel with which you must fill full of wheat."
"How much wool will it take to the pack?" she says.
"It will take 7 herds of sheep," said she, "and their increase for 7 years."
"How much butter will it take to fill your crock?"
7 dairy, she said, and their increase for 7 years.
"And how much will it take to fill the barrel you have?" says the queen.
"It will take the increase of 7 barrels of wheat for 7 years."
"That is a great quantity," says the queen, "but the reason must be extraordinary, and before I want it, I will give you all you demand."
"Well," says the henwife, "it is because you are so stupid that you don't observe or find out those affairs that are so dangerous and hurtful to yourself and your child."
"What is that?" says the queen.
"Why," she says, "the king your husband has 3 fine sons had by the late queen, whom he keeps shut up in a tower until they come of age, intending to divide the kingdom between them, and let your son push his fortune. Now, if you don't find some means of destroying them, your child and perhaps yourself will be left desolate in the end."
"And what would you advise me to do?" she said. "I am wholly at a loss in what manner to act in this affair."
"You must make known to the king," says the henwife, "that you heard of his sons, and wondered greatly that he concealed them all this time from you. Tell him you wish to see them, and that it is full time for them to be liberated, and that you will be desirous he would bring them to the court. The king will then do so, and there will be a great feast prepared on their account, and also diversions of every sort to amuse the people, and these sports," she said. "Ask the king's sons to play a game of cards with you, which they will not refuse. Now," says the henwife, "you must make a bargain. If you win, they must do whatever you command them, and if they win, you must do whatever they command you to do. This bargain must be made before the assembly, and here's a pack of cards," she said, "that I am thinking you will not lose by."
Cheers, Dad. The queen immediately took the cards, and after returning the henwife thanks for her kind instruction, went back to the palace, where she was quite uneasy until she got speaking to the king in regard of his children. At last she broke it off to him in a very polite and engaging manner, so that he could see no muster or design in it. He readily consented to her desire, and his sons were sent for to the tower, who gladly came to court, rejoicing that they were freed from such confinement. They were all very handsome, and very expert in all arts and exercises, so that they gained the love and esteem of all that had seen them. The queen, more jealous with them than ever,
I thought it's an age until all the feasting and rejoicing was over that she might get making her proposal, depending greatly on the power of the henwife's cards. At length this royal assembly began to sport and play all kinds of diversions, and the queen very cunningly challenged the three princes to play cards with her, making a bargain with them as she had been instructed. They accepted the challenge, and the eldest son, and she played the first game, which she won. Then the second son played, and she won that game likewise. The third son and she played the last game, and he won it, which sorely grieved her that she had not him in her power as well as the rest, being by far the handsomest and most beloved of the three. However, everyone was anxious to hear the queen's commands in regard to the two princes, not thinking that she had any ill design in her head against them. Whether it was the henwife instructed her, or whether it was from her own devious own knowledge, I cannot tell. But she gave out that they must go and bring her the Knight of the Glen's wild steed of bells, or they should lose their heads. The young princes were not in the least concerned, not knowing what they had to do. But the whole court was amazed at her demand, knowing very well that it was impossible for them to ever get the steed, as all they ever sought of him perished in the attempt. However, they could not retract the bargain, and the youngest prince was desired to tell what he demanded he had on the queen, as he had won their game. "My brothers," says he, "are now going to travel, and, as I understand, a perilous journey wherein they know not what road to take, or what may happen to them. I am resolved, therefore, not to stay here, but to go with them. Let what will betide. And I request and command, according to my bargain, that the queen shall stand on the highest tower of the palace until we come back, or find out that we are certainly dead, with nothing but sheaf corn for her food and cold water for her to drink, if it should be for 7 years or longer." Wow. All things being now fixed, the three princes departed the court in search for the Knight of the Glen's palace. And traveling along the road, they came up with a man who was a little lame and seemed to be somewhat advanced in years. They soon fell into discourse, and the youngest of the princes asked the stranger his name, and what was the reason he wore so remarkable a black cap as he saw on him.
"I am called," he said, "the Thief of Sloan, and sometimes the Black Thief from my cap."
And so, telling the prince the most of his adventures, he asked him again where he was bound for, or what they were about. The prince, willing to gratify this request, told him the affairs of the beginning to end. "And now," he said, "we are traveling and do not know whether we are on the right road or not."
"Ah, my brave fellows," said the Black Thief, "you little know the danger you run. I am after the steed myself these 7 years, and I can never steal him on account of the silk covering he has on him in the stable, with 60 bells fixed on it, and whenever you approach the place he quickly observes and shakes himself, which, by the sound of the bells, he not only alarms the prince and his guards, but the whole country road, so that it is impossible to ever get him, and those other unfortunate as to be taken by the Knight of Glen are boiled in red-hot fiery furnace."
"Bless me," says the young prince. "What will we do? If we return without the steed, we will lose our heads. So I see we are ill fixed on both sides."
"Well," says the Thief of Sloan, "if it were my case, I would rather die by the knight than by the wicked queen. Besides, I will go with you myself and show you the road, and whatever fortune you will have, I will take chance of the same.
They returned him sincere thanks for his kindness, and he, being well acquainted with the road, in a short time brought them within view of the knight's castle.
Now, says he, we must stay here till night comes, for I know all the ways of the palace, and if there be any chance of it, it is when they are all at rest, for the steed is all the watch the night keeps there.
Accordingly, in the dead hour of the night, the king's 3 sons and the thief of Sloan attempted the steed of bells in order to carry him away. But before they could reach the stables, the steed neighed most terribly and shook himself. So the bell was rung with such noise that the knight and all his men were up in a moment. The black thief and the king's sons sought to make their escape, but they were suddenly surrounded by the knight's guards and taken prisoner, where they were all brought into the dismal part of the palace where the knight kept a furnace boiling away, in which he threw all offenders that ever came his way, and in a few moments he would entirely consume them.
Audacious villains, said the knight of the Glen. How dare you attempt so bold an action as to steal my steed? See now the reward of your folly. For your greater punishment I will not boil you altogether, but one after the other, so that he who survives may witness the dire afflictions of his unfortunate companions.
Ow. So saying, he ordered his servants to stir up the fire.
We will boil the eldest of these young men first, he said, and so on to the last, which will be the old champion with the black cap. He seems to be the captain, and looks as if he had come through many toils.
It was a near death as a prince is yet, says the black thief, and escaped, and so will he too.
No, you never were, said the knight, for he is within 2 or 3 minutes of his latter end.
But, says the black thief, I was within a moment of my death, and I am here yet.
How is that? Says the knight. I would be glad to hear it, for it seems impossible.
If you think, Sir Knight, says the black thief, that the danger I was in surpasses that of this young man, will you pardon him his crime?
I will, says the knight. Go on with your story.
I was, sir, says he, a very wild boy in my youth, and came through many distresses. Once in particular, as I was my rambling, I was benighted and could not find any lodging. At length I came to an old kiln, and much being fatigued, I went up and lay on the ribs. I had not been there long when I saw 3 witches coming in with 3 bags of gold. Each put their bags of gold under their heads as if to sleep. I heard one of them say to the other that if the black thief came on them while they slept, he would not leave them a penny. I found by their discourse that everybody had got my name into their mouth, as though I kept silent death until the discourse. At length they fell fast asleep, and then I stole softly down, and seeing some turf convenient, I placed under each of their heads, and I went off with their gold as fast as I could. I had not gone far, continued the thief of Sloan, until I saw a greyhound, a hare, and a hawk in pursuit of me. I began to think it must be the witches that had taken shapes in order that they might not escape them unseen either by land or water. Seeing they did not appear in any formidable shape, I was once more resolved to attack them, thinking that with my broadsword I could easily destroy them. But considering again it was perhaps still in their power to become alive again, I gave over the attempt and climbed difficultly up a tree, bringing my sword in hand and all the gold along with me. However, when they came to the tree, they found what I had done, and making further use of their hellish art, one of them was changed into a smith's anvil,
and another into a piece of iron, of which the third soon made a hatchet. Having the hatchet made, she fell to cutting down the tree, and in course of an hour it began to shake with me in it. At length it began to bend, and I found that 1 or 2 blows at the most could put it down. Then I began to think that my death was inevitable, considering that those were too capable of doing so much would soon end my life. But just as she had the stroke drawn that would terminate my fate, the cock crew, and the witches disappeared, having resumed their natural shapes for fear of being known, and I got safe off with the bags of gold.
Now, sir, he says the knight of the Glen, if that not be great adventure as you have heard, to be within 1 blow of a hatchet at my end, and that blown even drawn, and after escape I leave it to yourself. Well, I cannot say but it is very extraordinary, says the knight of Glen, and on that account pardon this young man of his crime. So stir up the fire till I boil the second one.
Indeed, says the black thief, I would fain think he would not die this time either.
How so? Says the knight. Is it impossible for him to escape?
I escaped death more wonderfully myself, says the thief of Sloan, that if you had him all ready to throw into the furnace, and I hope it will be the case with him likewise.
Why, have you been in another great danger? Says the knight. I will be glad to hear this story too, and if it be as wonderful as last, I will pardon this young man as I did the other.
My way of living, sir, says the black thief, was not good, as I told you before, and being at a certain time fairly run out of cash, and meeting with no enterprise worthy of notice, I was reduced to great straits. At length a rich bishop died in the neighborhood that I was in, and I heard he was interred with a good deal of jewels and rich robes upon him, all which I intended a short time to be the master of. Accordingly, that very night I set about it, and coming to the place, I understood he was placed at the further end of a long dark vault, which I entered slowly. I had not gone far in until I heard a foot coming towards me with a quick pace, and although naturally bold and daring, yet thinking of the deceased bishop and the crime I was engaged in, I lost courage and ran towards the entrance of the vault. I had retreated but a few paces when I observed, between me and the light, the figure of a tall black man standing in the entrance. Being in great fear and not knowing how to pass, I fired a pistol at him, and he immediately fell across the entrance. Perceiving he had retained the figure of a mortal man, I began to imagine that it could not be the bishop's ghost. Recovering myself, therefore, from the fear I was in, I ventured to the upper end of the vault, where I found a large bundle, and upon further examination I found that the corpse was already rifled, and that which I had taken to be a ghost was no more than one of his own clergy. I was then very sorry that I had the misfortune to kill him, but it then could not be helped. I took up the bundle that contained everything belonging to the corpse that was valuable, intending to make my departure from this melancholy abode, but just as I came to the mouth of the entrance I saw the guards of the place coming towards me. I had distinctly heard them saying that they would look into the vault, for that the black thief would think little of robbing a corpse, if anything was in the place. I did not know then, in a matter of fact, for it was I that had seen surely lose my life, as everybody had to look at the time, and because there was no person bold enough to come in on me, I knew very well on the first sight of me that I could be got. I would be shot like a dog. However, I had no time to lose. I took and raised up the man which I had killed as if he were standing on his feet, and I, crouching behind him, bore him up as well as I could, so that the guards readily saw him as they came up to the vault. Seeing the man in black, one of the men cried that it was a black thief, and, presenting his piece, fired at the man, at which I let him fall, and crept a little into a dark corner myself. That was the entrance in the place. When they saw the man fall, they ran into the vault, and never stopped until they were at the end of it, for fear, as I thought, that there might be some others along with him that was killed. But while they were busy inspecting the corpse and the vault to see what they could miss, I slipped out, and once away, and still away, but they never had the black thief in their power since."
"Well, my brave fellow," says the Knight of the Glen, "I see you have come through many dangers. You have freed 2 princes by your stories, but I am sorry myself that this young prince has to suffer for all. Now, if you could tell me something as wonderful as you've already, I would pardon him likewise. I pity this youth, and did not want to put him to death if I could keep it."
"That happens well," said the Thief of Sloan, "for I like him best myself, and have reserved the most curious passage for the last on his account."
"Well then," says the knight, "let us hear it."
"I was one day on my travels," says the Black Thief, "and I came into a large forest, where I wandered a long time, and could not get out of it. At length I came to a large castle, and fatigue obliged me to call in the same, where I found a young woman and a child sitting on her knee, and she was crying. I asked her what had made her cry, and there was a lord of the castle was, for I wondered greatly that I saw no stir of servants or any persons about the place. 'It is well for you,' says the young woman, 'that the lord of the castle is not at home at present, for he is a monstrous giant, but with one eye on his forehead, who lives on human flesh. He brought me this child,' she says. 'I do not know where he got it, but he ordered me to make it into a pie, and I cannot help crying at the command.'
Baby pie.
I told her that if she knew of any place convenient that I could leave the child safely, I would do it, rather than it should be killed by such a monster. She told me of a house a distance off where I could get a woman who would take care of it. 'But what will I do in regard of the pie?' 'Cut a finger off it,' said I, 'and I will bring you a young wild pig out of the forest, which you may dress as if it is a child, and put the finger in a certain place. If the giant doubts anything about it, you know where to turn it, and hand it over him first, and when he sees it is fully satisfied, the pie is made of the child.' She agreed to the scheme I proposed, and cutting off the child's finger by her direction, I soon had it at the house that she told me of, and brought her the little pig in the place of it. Then she made ready the pie, and after eating and drinking heartily myself, I was just taking my leave of the young woman when she observed the giant coming through the castle gates. 'Bless me,' she said, 'what will you do now?' 'Run away and lie down among the dead bodies that he has in his room,' and she showed me the place, 'and strip off your clothes that he may not know you from the rest, as he occasionally is done that way.' I took her advice and laid myself among the dead, as if dead, to see how he would behave. The first thing I heard was him calling for his pie. When she set it down before him, he swore it smelled like swine's flesh, but knowing where to hand the finger, she immediately turned it up, which fairly convinced him of the contrary. The pie was only served to sharpen his appetite, and I heard him sharpening his knife and saying he must have a collop or two, for he was not near satisfied. But what was my terror when I heard the giant groping among the bodies, and fancying myself, cut half of my hip off, and took it with him to be roasted. You may be certain I was in great pain, but the fear of being killed prevented me from making any complaint. However, when he had eaten all, he began to drink hot liquors in great abundance, so that in a short time he could not hold up his head, but threw himself on a large creel he had made for the purpose, and fell fast asleep. When I heard him snoring as I was up, I went to the woman and bound my wound with a handkerchief, and taking the giant's splints, rent it in the fire and ran through his eye, but was not able to kill him. However, I've left a splint sticking in his head and took out my heels. Sooner he found me in the pursuit of me, although blind, and having an enchanted ring he threw at me, and I fell on my big toe and remained fastened to it. The giant then called to the ring where it was, and to my great surprise it made an answer in my foot. And he, guided by the same, made a leap for me which I had good luck to observe, and fortunately escaped the danger. However, I was found running no use in saving me, as long as I had the ring on my foot. So I took my sword and cut off the toe that was fastened on, and threw it both into a large fish pond that was convenient. The giant again called to the ring, which by the power of enchantment always made him answer, but he, not knowing what I had done, imagined it was still on some part of me and made a violent leap to seize me, when he went into the pond, head over his ears, and drowned. Now, Sir Knight, says the thief of Sloane, you see what dangers I come through, and always escaped, but indeed I am lame from and want for a toe ever since.
My lord and master, says an old woman that was listening all the time, that story is too good to be true, as I know well, for I am the very woman who is in the giant's castle, and you, my lord, the child that was made into a pie, the very man that saved your life, which you may now want to be the finger that was taken off, as you have heard, to deceive the giant. The knight of the Glen, greatly surprised at what he had heard the old woman's tale, and knowing he wanted the finger from his childhood, began to understand that the story was true enough. And this is my deliverer, says he. Oh, brave fellow, I only pardon you all, but will keep you with myself while you live, and where you shall feast like princes, and have attendants that I have myself. They all returned to their knees, and the black thief told him the reason they attempted to steal the steed of bells, and the necessity they were under in going home. Well, says the knight of the Glen, if that's the case, I bestow you my steed, rather than this brave fellow should die. So you may go when you please, only remember to call, and see me betimes, that we may know each other well. They promised they would, and with great joy they set off for the king of their father's palace, and the black thief along with them. The wicked queen was standing all this time on the tower, and hearing the bells in the great distance off, she knew well that the princes were coming home, and the steed with them. And though sprites and vexation precipitated herself from the tower, was shattered to pieces. The three princes lived happily and well during their father's reign, and always keeping the black thief among them. And how they did after the old king's death is not known. So, that's interesting. So the Black Thief is an interesting story. I kind of like that one. Story for life. I don't know if I could tell a good enough story to save someone's life. I would try. And it's good to know that a giant would be able to tell the difference between swine and human, because they're pretty close. Very, very close. And now I have the sudden urge to have a pork pie. I haven't had a pork pie in some time. Let's see, who is on that we can raid? Let's see, is Evie still on? EB is playing with the ARC updates. Let's see, Athena is playing Alan Wake 2. That's cool. Okay, altered. And Dusk is playing Overwatch. Yeah. See, Mary is playing Devour. I don't know if I want to rate a massive crowded audience because, you know, there's not much of us here, and kind of weird rating someone like 100 times more people than me. Even if we do technically do the same thing. If anyone lurking around has any suggestions, I'd gladly take them. No points needed, because, no, when do I ever charge points for a raid theory? Let's see. Oh well, let's go and get those raid messages up, just in case. Got the lower raid. Got the sub raid. Let's read EB. So yeah. Again, thank you everyone for coming in, listening, lurking. All of that wonderful fun stuff that we do here. Anyway, cozy up. If you want to go to the raid, go to the raid. If not, hope you have a good night and get some good sleep. Stay warm, that kind of stuff. And be cozy. So, again, thank everyone for coming in. And I'll see you over in Bunny's channel. And make sure you give her a nice beyond. Have a good night.